Good afternoon, beautiful beings of light. Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. Good afternoon, ladies. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here.
Hello,
Today we're
everybody.
short a little bit, but we've got SunPsychic Jean and Pure Visionary Terry Lee, and of course me and Heather.
Yeah.
The Crones are here today, but I'm sorry that Terry Suzuki is in Japan and couldn't join us, and sweet Joan, Wisdom Seeker Joan, is on a much needed holiday, and we wish her a wonderful time where she is.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry that she couldn't make it here, but thank you all for being here today. As you know,
We may be small, but we're mighty.
absolutely. For those of you that are not familiar with the Wisdom Circle, there's actually normally 6 of us, and we get together once a month with a subject to discuss that's obviously has to
For
do
those
with
of you that
spirituality.
are not familiar,
Sorry, that was me. Sorry,
Oh,
I thought I had it.
What do you mean? That's all right. Anyway, we do this once a month to get different perspectives and ideas on different subjects. And today we're going to talk about remote viewing, which is one of my favorite subjects because I can't do it. I have not been able to do it. And I'm fascinated by it. Remote viewing. And today our hostess with the mostest is going to be Ms. Heather.
yeah. And I would be the last one to teach you because I just decide where I'm going to go when I'm there. So I can tell you about it, but I can't teach it to you.
That's all right. You can
Yeah.
tell us all about it.
Yes.
So I don't know how to move everybody over. I don't have that.
What is it you want to do?
I'm just going to show the slides.
So you add them to the stage.
There you
Here
go.
we go.
Just like magic.
Just like magic. So it is remote viewing. And what I was going to do first was kind of review what we did before, because we didn't get through near a bunch of it. But I did want to kind of go through what we did before. And the basic definition is the act of seeing objects near or far by using the mind, and the ability to view places, people, and activities at any place without actually being there. And I do. I'm fortunate I can do that. And it's really weird because I noticed that when I first arrive, I'm in the distance, and I just actually say, no, I want to go closer, and all of a sudden I'm closer. So it's
Very cool.
it's very
Yeah.
cool. and I was really surprised, and I'll tell you about at least one of the viewings that I did before. And basically, there were main things like Pear and Mobius were the ones that actually developed a lot of it. And of course, you have the military, because they thought you couldn't be told, they couldn't tell you were there. But if you're a remote viewer, your energy is there. And if they have people who also have the abilities, they know you're there. They just don't know where, who is this? Okay, what are you doing here? That kind of thing. But they know you're there. They just can't get at you. So I suppose it's good that they did say that when you're remote viewing, you do have 75% correct. What I have found is it's actually better than that.
Wow.
Because when I go check out and find out things, they're pretty much what I thought they were.
I have a question. The remote viewing that I understand for the military, they would give them coordinates and they would write down what they saw. But what you see is literally what's there, right? It's not like you're getting impressions. This is more like a movie going through your impressions.
It's like I'm actually there, and I can turn my head and look and see what it is. For instance, when I went to Mount Shasta, I could see there was water running, and I could actually follow that river back. And when I got back to the beginning of it, it was water coming out of rock, and it was such a huge, it was 40 or 50 foot tall
Wow.
waterfall. And the water, now Priscilla knows what I'm talking about, but the water that was there was just like what was in the park that we were all going and getting. It was that pure and that
It was the
satisfying.
springs that actually started, wasn't it the Sacramento River?
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
it was
fresh out
so
of the rock.
clear and so cold and so refreshing.
Mhm.
And that's what this water was like. And there were no boats in it. It was just clean going through the city. If they needed it, it went off into an aqueduct so that it could be used.
Right.
But nobody messed with it.
Alert from calendar. Jen.
Oops, that's me. Sorry about. I didn't get it turned off soon enough. Anyway, my opinion is that it's probably more than 75%.
Hmm.
And it may depend on the viewer. I don't know, but I have found it to be more than that. It's really so much better. And the other thing that they have found is that remote viewers who are defined, that they know that they are more right-brained. They did better than the left-brain people. And
That makes
the
sense.
right brain has to do with your imagination, whereas the left brain is scientific.
Mhm.
Okay, if that helps any. Or as the way I can tell when I'm talking to somebody is that a right brain person will give you all the facts and go around the bush, and eventually they'll get to the point. Whereas the left brain starts out with the point and then gives you all the details to support it. See the difference? But that's how when I meet somebody, I can tell what they are because just how they talk. But I will say that if I meet somebody who's right-brained, I have to sit and click into my right-brained part to be able to stand waiting that long for the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? You know, taking around the bush, but I have to sit there and think about it. They said that as far as remote viewing goes, men are and women are equal. They're just as good as each other. And extroverts and introverts develop different strategies to open up the non-local, and they have different rituals to help people do what they want to do.
Hmm.
Like I said, I don't have a ritual. I just said, I want to go see it, and there I'm there. And as long as I don't get nervous, it feels okay, I stay there. Otherwise, I hurry back out and don't get much. And they talk about a monitor and a viewer, and because they're different. The monitor actually, as the viewer, you're just writing down what you see. The monitor tries to take all that information and put it together. I don't try to do that. I just write down everything I see. And then afterwards, I'll look at it and monitor. You know, well, that must be because there's no space or time limitations, and no level of blindness has any effect. It's kind of like I'm mostly deaf, she'll tell you, but I can hear when voices are talking to me. The human hearing is different than our connection. Just like human seeing is different than remote viewing, because remember, everybody is one. We're all connected.
Yes.
So we just go. And it didn't matter when they were doing the research, they were talking about double blind and triple blind tests. It didn't make any difference. Didn't matter. It all came out the same. And there's really no body language that goes along with it. It's just there. So it's something that you work with. And let me see if I can get past. Unfortunately, when I redid things, they didn't come out exactly right. But when you're remote viewing, the basic thing is you've got to quiet your mind. So meditation is critical. if you can't meditate, you're going to have a hard time remote viewing. Now, for me, it's the opposite way around. I can remote view, but I'm busy concentrating on that. Well, that's technically meditation, but if I'm just trying to meditate, it doesn't always work well, you know, so. But as far as remote viewing goes, I just sit where I want to be and I just concentrate on that. And everything else disappears like it's supposed to when you're meditating. So it's said that the human mind generates about 7,000, 70,000 thoughts per day. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, much of it comes from superficial, just the tip of the iceberg stuff. If you actually are meditating, all of a sudden you find out there's a lot more stuff underneath. Do you agree?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there is a mental, and this one works. So go ahead and try this. I'll read it first, but it says a quick mental exercise that you can try to improve the clarity of the mind. Simply count in your head from 1 to 20, leaving a few seconds between each number. However, if any other thoughts get in your head, you have to start over again.
Wow.
And eventually you'll get to 20. But if you get to 20, you are definitely meditating because you have kept it out of your mind. So you have to go back to number 1 if anything else comes into it. And it's harder than it sounds. I've tried it.
It's a muscle.
Yeah.
It is. It's just a muscle.
Yeah, you have to train that muscle to be strong enough to keep everything out.
That's a great little practice exercise. Thank you for giving us that
It
because
is.
that's
Yeah, it's
good thing to know.
and it does help you when you're attempting a remote view because other thoughts don't come in while you're trying to work on that. You basically really focus. And that was one reason I had that slide up because that's a really, really good exercise to help you quiet your mind. And I have to admit, the first couple of times I tried it, it was like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 1. You know, it's constantly going back. It didn't work well, but really, remote viewing is a form of meditation because it requires you for a certain amount of time to concentrate on one thing, and you're in a different state of consciousness. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. And you have to be highly receptive. Well, you guys all are. And it's a state of mind. It's thought to be a meditation itself, or very close to meditation. For me, it's just a matter of actually thinking on it. And at the very least, picking up the meditative practice, it does train your mind. And as important as meditation is for all of us, let's face it, it can't hurt. It can't hurt ever. So if you will put us all back on screen, I'll talk about the rest of it. Okay, thank you. We're a cooperation here. We're used to working together.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So anyway, I was going to let you know about some things that I have seen, and then I want all of them to help talk about things that they have done.
Let me put up a banner real quick for
Okay.
the chat.
Well, by the way, Amanda Carroll says she loves that exercise too.
Mhm.
It works.
That's great. I'm going to use that a lot.
I'm
You'll
gonna
find
try
you go
it.
back a lot. Get to 20. Just try to get to 20.
I have to use my windshield wiper though. That
Yeah. You're really telling your mind your monkey mind, go away, go away, go away, you know. So anyway, and if there's anything you guys have seen, that's great. When we went to go visit Mount Shasta, I did go look underneath and I wanted to see what it was like. the main problem I had was that I wasn't getting details. I was just getting what it looked like generally.
Oh.
And I had to ask about that. And they said, well, you're so excited that you saw something that you need to just settle down and wait. And then everything else will show up. And I said, okay. So that's what I did this time. I had gotten a message that I needed to go back to Mount Shasta. And I thought that meant like the first time we actually went.
Does that mean we're not going to get to go again?
Oh, I think we can go again anyway, but I think they were telling me go back and remote.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Yeah, I think we want to go. That's a kind of bucket list thing you never check off. You just go ahead and keep going back.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I wrote down all sorts of notes, so I'm reading them. Basically, when I first got there, what I saw was this huge city, and none of the buildings were above 4 or 5 stories. It wasn't super tall, not like our New York City or even Denver. But they were all white, and they had arched buildings. They had triangle buildings. It was like looking at a very modern city, and yet it wasn't modern. It's been there forever, but it all glows. And like I said, it just seemed like it was white. Everybody was wearing white robes and the white buildings, and the light was white, and the waterfall was pure white. And when I say the light, that's all crystals coming from the ceiling. It never gets dark there. They don't need to sleep, but it never gets dark. So it's always a bright light.
Wow.
And it has that river running through. And like I said, there was a tall waterfall. I was able to follow the river back towards it's like there's a great big cave. It's not a cave because it's huge, but you could see the water coming, and that all came from the earth, and it was coming through. And then later on, it told me that's the water that we got at the park. So
Wow.
okay.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So that's why I said you would know what I meant, because we've been there and that water is just unbelievable. And there's no pollution in it. Of course, we knew that already. And it's like a huge park all the way around it. I mean, I didn't see any plants, but it didn't seem to make any difference. It felt warm, and the people were friendly, and the atmosphere was friendly.
Did you speak to anybody?
Yes and no, meaning through our brains, we spoke.
Wow.
Through our mouths, we did not. And it wasn't English. I just understood them. They understood me. It was really weird.
Wow. That's very cool.
Really weird. But, because I asked, what is, no, follow this river. You're going to love it. And it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And that's the only dark area was the rock. Otherwise, there was crystal, and it wasn't really all that dark. There were crystals in it too, but it's not like the ceiling, which was total crystals.
Wow.
And it just kept everything so bright. As far as the plants went, there were greenhouses for greenery. Otherwise, it was all white. And the greenhouses were clear. And so you could go in, but they don't really need to eat. It seems like, they're pretty much ethereal. The only time they put on the clothes that we know is when they go up on surface. Otherwise, they're just wearing very comfortable flowing robes. So
Wow.
if they're wearing anything, sometimes they're not even, you can't see them. I mean, you know that they're there because they're entities, but they're not.
You see their energetic bodies? Is that what you're
Yes.
talking about?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So let me ask you a question then. Do you feel like when you're when you're doing this remote viewing, do you feel like it's your consciousness is there, or do you actually feel like your soul has some kind of a presence or an appearance to other beings that you might run into in your adventures?
A little bit of both. I
Yeah.
know that they know I'm there.
Okay. Okay.
Is it your
Physical.
energetic body or is it
Yes.
more like a physical body?
No, it's more of an energetic body.
Okay.
No, I don't even know what I looked like. It doesn't matter. You know,
Right.
it
Yeah.
didn't matter what they looked like.
But they can see you enough that you can communicate with them, which is
Right.
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah.
If
And
you
so
were
with
trying
that,
to be,
I could ask them questions.
can you be, I mean, can you be stealthy or interact with people when you're, or entities when you're traveling like that?
Oh, good
Well, I'm
question.
not a stealthy person, so that's really hard.
I mean, if you
Well, I
just wanted
talked to
to
you about
stay
that.
up high and have a look down and not get involved with
Yeah.
them. I don't,
I have
you know,
done that
otherwise
here.
Observe, just observe it and not interact.
I have done that on Earth. I've been told, no, you didn't do what everybody else did. Everybody else went through a door. You went up and watched everybody. I'm going, okay.
So,
So I have done that
very
here.
interesting. You can communicate
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they know that you're there.
They know I'm there. They're aware that I was there. And they were showing me where to go. They were saying, go down here,
I love
go
that.
down there. Because I was on the outskirts of the city. And then all of a sudden I was in the city
Mhm.
because I wanted to be closer.
Right.
And like I said, the buildings weren't real tall, but they were, like I said, the whole atmosphere was just peaceful and friendly.
Anybody in the chat have any questions? Let us know if y'all have any questions because I'm full of questions.
Yeah.
We go ahead and ask. But I do know that like the buildings seem to be like of white marble and crystals.
Wow.
And everybody that I was aware of, you know, sometimes I could see people, sort of. They're not people, but you know, entities, and they all seemed healthy and happy. And it seemed like most everybody was, it was like we're all adults. I didn't see any kids, but they may be someplace else. I
Yeah.
don't know. So there were paths along, if you got near the wall, there were paths up there and doorways that they could go out anytime they wanted to and be on the outside. At the same time, they're ethereal. So, like I said, I could.
Well, the ones
understand-
we saw in Mount Shasta certainly looked human to me.
They can look
They
human.
can be,
Even like the guy that sat down with us looked human, just very tall, you know. But and then of course the
I
girls,
didn't
of course,
see.
Yeah.
The guy sitting next to me, I couldn't see. She could
Yes,
see him. I couldn't
could see
see
him.
him.
Ah.
And he was very quiet. The atmosphere around him was curious. You know, I'm here to watch,
Observe.
observe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So Heather, I have a question. Could you explain to me the difference between remote viewing and astral travel?
I think to get to the remote viewing, you have to astral travel.
Okay.
It's just, to me, it's instantaneous.
Okay.
Does
Great.
that make sense?
Yes. So in a sense, in a soul sense, it's an out of body experience, even though you
Mhm.
have some kind of presence that they can recognize.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Ooh.
like I know for a fact that when I was checking on my dog that got hit by a car, he was asleep in the chair. He never knew I was there.
Wow.
And nobody believed me when I said I had been. You know,
You just have a
You've
really
got
good
good
imagination.
imagination.
Amanda has a question.
Yeah.
Do you see these cave structures?
Cave structures, only if you go up to the wall. But otherwise, they really weren't there because this is such a huge
Okay.
huge city.
But you say a huge city. Are you talking about like the size of Denver? Are you talking about New York City? Are you talking about a village or
It's bigger than New York.
okay, so it's enormous.
It's
Wow.
enormous. They were just
Man,
telling
I
me
wasn't my brain wasn't going there. My brain was not in New York, bigger than New York
it's
City.
enormous. And I was only on the outside, but I don't know where it ended. As far as when you
Wow.
were talking about cave structures, the crystals were cave structures. I mean, they were in the walls and the ceilings. You know, the crystals were.
Right.
But that's what lit everything up. I don't know how, but everything was so lit up.
I'd have been
And-
putting those crystals in my pockets, girl.
Your
Trying to get
material
'em back
body has
home.
pockets.
I think you could probably do it if you could get them out of the wall. But they're part of the wall. So. But
Yeah, I don't think I'd wanna go
just
digging
lit
around.
everything up, and it was so bright. It was. I'll go back.
Nice.
I like it there. I could go back.
I had to go back and talk to people. Ask
Well,
questions.
you can. They will turn into
How
people
neat.
for you to make you more comfortable.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, yeah. And this is new stuff that's coming in as you're talking. It's
Right.
being told me.
Oh, wow. Any other questions, you guys? While she's channeling the info? That's fantastic.
On
Miss
the other,
Psychic Queen, you've been awful quiet today. Don't you have some?
I'm actually looking something up called the Emerald City to see if I thought I never considered how big it would have looked, and if it was.
Oh.
And there's so many images here that are just fascinating that are very similar with the, all of the crystals and the. There's like a dome, but the dome is almost like a mist, and you can't see the top, but there is no top
Right.
in some of these. Yeah, it's amazing. And they say that people that in the movies do these either astral travel or remote viewing, and this is where a lot of this information is like so familiar to us in the movies because people actually have that ability, and this is where they get some of the storyline and some
Wow.
of the imagery.
yeah, I have heard that a lot of Star Trek comes from things that people have seen.
Mhm.
So
Gene
that's
Roddenberry was a visionary for his time. He really was. I feel like we were so lucky to grow up with his work because
too.
taught a lot of valuable lessons about humanity. And
I
that was
absolutely did. Absolutely. The next
On the other-
generation, particularly. I'm a Picard fan.
oh, you're
I like.
yeah.
I'm a fan of everything.
My dad was a Trekkie, but if you told him he was, he would tell you he wasn't.
So, Heather, you told us of a positive experience, but I know of one that you said that was kind of scary, and I'd like to know why it was scary and how did you stay very long and how that affected you? Because I would imagine it's a really good idea to go with your gut. When you're uncomfortable, get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
It is. You got to
Especially
go
if
with
they
your
can see you.
intuition. Now, that was a positive experience, but going to Antarctica was not necessarily positive. It was a little bit scary. I did try to stay there as much as I could and see as much as I could, but when I ventured forward, it was go forward and come back. Go forward and check this out. Go back.
Right.
And basically, I got there by my understanding is that how most of them get there. They do have a tube to take you from the surface down, but most ships for alien ships go underneath the ground and come up from underneath, and you have the ocean there, and it's like there's docking stations, but it's like they're floating on the water, and
Right.
they just go. And when you follow all those docks in, there is like a row of tables, and you are checked in, check out stuff. I didn't go through the tables. I jumped
I don't
over
blame you.
a few things, but I did not go through them. Because that was a little, that bothered me a little. And the atmosphere is not friendly. It's all business. Let's see. All the buildings are maybe 1, 2, top is 3 stories maybe, but they're
Underground?
sprawling.
Are they underground?
Yeah, they're under the ground. And again, this is kind of cave, but the cave is low because you've got the water coming up. So there's not that much there. And it tends to be a little bit dark. Well, actually, it's lit with lights or whatever they're using, but it's not crystals like at Mount
Right.
Shasta.
Hmm.
It's artificial type light, and where there's no lights, it's dark. So you generally don't go exploring.
Mm-hmm.
So Heather, may I ask, what directed you to go there? I mean, did you feel called by a guide or an angel to go to Antarctica, or you just decided to have a little fun trip?
I was asked, so I went.
Okay, interesting. And so the information that you gathered from that, so why do you think you were asked? Was it the experience?
That or curiosity.
Yeah, cool.
You know, and you
Mhm.
hear a lot about it down there. There were all sorts of different species down there,
Wow.
and they
Fascinating.
didn't necessarily just become ethereal. You could
Okay.
see that they were different species.
You can see their physical
Really?
bodies as opposed to
Right.
being energetic bodies.
Right.
More
Yeah.
3D than 5D.
Yes, it
Or
seemed to be
6D.
more 3D than 5D.
So would you say that underneath Mount Shasta is 6D or 5D? Do you have a clue?
6.
I mean, okay.
I keep getting 6 in my head.
Okay.
Basically, I was ignored, I was very happy about that because they didn't really seem to be all that
Did
cordial.
you think that they saw you as well?
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I was not invited in. That's why I said sometimes I would go take a peek at something, but I really didn't get much past the check-in tables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was not invited in, and I did not feel like it was a really good idea. So I felt like there were different parts, different areas in that were used for different things, and it felt very scientific. It felt like there were labs.
Military? Did it feel military-ish? Or more scientific-ish?
More scientific-ish, but there was military there.
Right.
They were not, I did go peer into some of the buildings, and there was a receptionist, but you didn't get past her or him or
I
it.
know plenty of receptionists like that.
You did not get past the receptionist. So I left, you know.
What did you see in the windows besides the receptionist? Anything?
It was pretty much empty.
Oh,
They had a couple chairs like for a waiting area, but it was not a welcoming place. It was, like I said, strictly business.
right.
So
Interesting.
yeah, it was like I said, not cordial, but very businesslike. So they had a purpose for being there, and don't bother asking.
Well,
They
yeah,
never
so
tell you.
considering there's different species down there, and
Yeah.
supposedly there's no such thing as aliens. I mean,
I believe there's something like that, and I just got this great idea. I think we should all go remote view Skinwalker Ranch, see what we come up with.
That could be just watching the show is enough to make you just a little bit nervous.
Oh, I just think it's utterly fascinating. I really do.
It is. It
Now
is.
that we're able to measure these things and know and see crafts coming out of a mountain. You know,
Yeah,
If
there's
there-
definitely a portal there.
Carol, if there were animals, they were in a lab. There was nothing just walking around.
okay.
And that's why I said if, because I didn't ever
And you
see
didn't see any under Mount Shasta either, did you? Any animals? No animals or children's?
No, but I got the impression when I thought about that, something was said about they're someplace else.
Right.
They're more protected and more relaxed. But they were someplace else. So it's not that they aren't there; it's that I didn't need to see them.
Right.
So,
Fair enough. You're invading somebody else's space, basically.
that's right. I'll go where I'm welcomed. You know.
Hmm.
So, and I remember once when you and I were sitting at home, and you were totally aware that we had a visitor and actually asked her what she's doing there. Do you remember Elizabeth April?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're not the only ones that do it.
True.
Yeah. She
Very
was
true.
Yeah, there's lots of times I can feel a presence, you know, not like before I do a show and I can actually feel soul presences, but just I'll be doing something or even at night and I'll just be like, who's here? I could feel that a presence is available and in the room with me. Sometimes I get an answer, sometimes I don't.
I really don't. I don't normally feel presence like that. The only time I have, it scared the shit out of me. I woke up one night and I was in England with my husband David, and I woke up and I was absolutely terrified to open my eyes. I knew that there was somebody standing over my bed looking at me. I could not open my eyes. I was so frightened.
Oh,
And I didn't know David was psychic at the time. This was before any of that showed up. So I asked him about it afterwards, many years after it had happened. And I actually did wake him up and go, there was somebody in the house. I know there was, but I don't think it was real. I think it was ethereal. Anyway, he said it was just somebody that it wasn't involved with the house. It was just an entity that just happened to be walking through the house.
mhm.
Went, oh,
Yeah.
she knows I'm here. How odd.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just a random happening like that. Have you
And
ever heard of that happen?
Jean, I'm sure you can feel, can't you? A
Yeah,
presence.
and I can see them as well. But it was funny because that happened one night when we were in Key West, and I could see these things, and all of a sudden they were gone. And when I mentioned it to Priscilla, she was saying, David said, yeah, they didn't realize that I could see them, so they left.
Mhm.
So, and then I had to
What were
show
you
the
going to
portal.
say, Jean?
What did I say? What?
What were you going to say about feeling entities? You feel present.
Well, I just feel like somebody's watching me. That's how you can tell. Like,
Yeah.
just when, yeah. You know how if you're in the store or something, you can tell somebody's looking at you, look over and they're staring right at you. You can feel that, but otherwise you don't feel that. But if you feel somebody watching you, that's the energy that you feel, like you said, that when you were asleep.
And you said you had remote viewed in a trip or traveling?
Shamanic journey.
Shamanic
Yeah.
journey.
It was totally accidental and I didn't realize I was doing it. And I'm not really sure it was 100% remote viewing, but so I was training and I was in my shamanic journeying class, and they said, they asked us to choose a tree, that one of our favorite trees that we really enjoy, that we really love, and to go into the lower world and meet our spirit guide there and do something and ask them something. So everybody in the room, they would be like drumming and drumming and drumming. And I'd be in the tree and back, and everybody still be drumming and drumming. Like they gave you 20 minutes. So I thought, well, if I'm there, the tree is near my mom's house. So I thought, let me go see if I can see my mom. So I went over, and my mom has this big picture window, like a bay window. And it's at the kitchen, and I went over and I looked in the kitchen, and I saw her. She was on the phone, and she was like cleaning up some dishes. And, I mean, but if you were on the phone cleaning up some dishes every night, she's on the phone cleaning up some dishes, But I
Sounds
did
like a
actually
remote
see
view to
her,
me.
and I felt like I was like this little, if I had to describe it, I felt like I was like this little orb, and I'd be able to fly around and that's my consciousness. But I do feel like, because we had to go, because just the direction, the instructions of what I was doing and where I went. But I did ask her if what she was doing, and if she was, and she couldn't really remember exactly what she was doing around
So
that time.
day-to-day stuff.
So there wasn't really any proof, but it could still have been part of the shamanic journey. But it is interesting, and I see a lot of similarities with guided meditation and the BQH and QHHT, this type of thing, where you use that part of your imagination in order to travel,
Yeah.
as well as astral travel or out of
Mhm.
body experience. All of these things are done in that, using that same area of focus.
Right.
I believe it's very similar.
And I was going to say that when I first started, I would just see things and then I'm gone. What I have found is that the more I talk about it, or the more I write what I saw, more shows
The
up.
more you saw. Yeah.
More shows up. Oh, and this.
Mhm.
Oh, and this. So if you start to talk about it, or you start to write down everything, you'll find that you actually saw a lot more than what you thought you saw.
Oh, that's good advice. So
Yeah.
if we're just practicing, if we're just doing some practice for remote viewing, it's always good to write it down,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
because
uh,
you'll see more.
I've always felt like another good exercise to prepare us for remote viewing is what's in the box, because that gets you used to really feeling something, without
Is that
having
like
any
spirit
idea
in your
what it
pocket?
is.
Yeah.
Pardon?
What's in the box? Is that like spirit in your pocket sort of
Maybe. I
thing?
don't know. I've never
You
played
just have
spirit
to
in the
guess what's
box.
in a box?
What's in the box is like someone in some other part of the room puts something in a box and walks into the room with the box, sets it in the middle of the room.
And then say
And
draw
then
a picture
everybody.
of it or something like that, and then they come back and see if it was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's
Cool.
a good way to practice that a psychic ability and the ability to feel things. Is it round? Is it square? Is it hard? Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, they used to do that with cards too. Draw
Oh
the shape.
yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
a great idea too. So spirit in the pocket? What?
What is that?
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
You just imagine that you're pulling something out of your pocket, and it can be like an elemental or
Oh, okay.
somebody's spirit that from the other side.
Yeah.
It can be anything. It's just a psychic practice thing that we use sometimes.
That's good.
And in fact, I think one time we used it as a Christmas ornament, spirit in your pocket. So I would pull a Christmas ornament out that would describe you,
Wow.
you know,
Cool.
Or song.
yeah,
And when you think about it, the power of that play and imagination, that's how we learn when we're children,
exactly.
right? And that's how we know to get around and experience things from play. And then this is basically what we're doing, and it's getting us used to being in these other realms and these other mindsets, and to use our imagination to take us there. Our
And
spirit.
I really think that because the veil's so getting thinner and thinner all the time, this is just the perfect time to try new things. Like I'm gonna do that meditation thing. I'm gonna start focusing on remote viewing and see if maybe I can do that now. You know what I mean? Because there's so many things if you guys have noticed over the last 3 or 4 years,
Oh.
where did you start? Where were you 2 years ago? Oh my God, it's like a whole different person now with
I know.
the
I
way the
know.
clairs have
Mhm.
come and grown and spread
And,
out. And
and you need to believe yourself.
Mhm.
You know, when you doubt yourself, then you really don't see. But when you start
Mhm.
writing things down that you saw, you realize, oh yeah, and this. So
It helps your
Mhm.
confidence.
it's like when I would talk with her, she would say, go check something out, and I start to speak, more and more would come out. Am I right? Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
great. Well, and that and releasing that fear of being wrong. That's why playing the games is so
Mhm.
comfortable, because you can get with a few other girls or people in a group and play a game. What's in the
Mhm.
pocket or what's in the box, or hey, let's feel like what this is over here. And you don't have to be afraid of being wrong. You can kind of let yourself go. And that's
That's
a
the
huge
joy of
part.
our community.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge part of psychic ability. It really is.
Mhm.
and when I say it doesn't make any difference about time, I mean that, because for instance, I really think my mom probably remote viewed, because there was some lady that would stand at the bottom of my bed when I was a kid. And I didn't know who she was, but she was well, not constantly, but she was there a lot. And so I asked my mom finally who it was. And she came back and told me who it was. You know, there was a lady who had lost a kid that was about my age. And so she was just
Oh,
checking to make sure I was okay.
wow.
I would get to the point where I'd wake up, see her at the base of the deck, and okay, go back to sleep, you know. So I think my mom must have remote viewed. Well, that means she saw it in the past. When you talk about David and you asked about that, he remote viewed into the past to find out what had happened.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it doesn't make any difference as to the time. You can look
'Cause
into
it's
the
all
future
now
if
anyway.
you want, but if you look into the future, that's what it is right now. It may not be that. You're much safer going into the past or into another dimension. I have a house in Italy somewhere, uh, and it's gorgeous, and it's sitting on a hillside, and it's like built into the hillside. I don't know when. I've never physically been there,
Sounds
but I
like
do dream about it a
destiny to
lot.
me.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
in
I
your
know it's home.
in your
Isn't that
research, did
interesting?
you come across any guidelines for ethics? Like what
I like to come in at the outside edge and see if I'm invited in. Because I feel like if they don't want me there, I really shouldn't be there. That's why I said I didn't stay in Antarctica very long.
Well, do you have any, like, ethical guidelines for people that are interested in doing this? You know, do's and don'ts of remote viewing, like, you don't wanna go spy on your girlfriend.
No,
You don't wanna go
no,
hang out at your girlfriend's house and spy on people like that. That's not ethical.
it really isn't. I mean, the same kind of ethics you would use in telling a fortune or reading
Yeah.
your cards or listening. I don't mean telling a fortune because we don't do that. But
I was gonna say,
reading,
what is that? Telling a
right,
fortune.
I was going to say, I don't know how to say that. But in doing our psychic work, we don't tell fortunes because there is no fortune to tell. There's too much choice. But um, there, you use the same kind of ethics you use when you're doing readings
Or healing work or anything
or
else.
healing work, right? You don't
Mhm.
overstep the bounds of what you're allowed to do. And if it doesn't feel comfortable to you, you don't do it.
Yeah,
I would think that would be a big
exactly.
one. Follow your gut. You need to pay
Follow
attention to
your
your
gut.
gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a question about it, no matter how it feels, if you have a little question, no, don't do it.
is there any way for like validating or I do know that some other readers go and they remote view, but I don't know how there's any type of validation. Like if they were to say, well, they saw something, and then the next day it would be on the news or something. You know what I mean? I
That
don't know
would
if there's.
validate. I remember being in I was with the family, and we went through a Southern house, as in the Old South. And I also remember it was really weird to me because I was still not even in junior high yet. And they're talking about this big room that we're in and what it used to be. And I'm looking down the room, and I can see the servants coming up through the floor to bring stuff to the kids, because it was the kids' playroom. Now, it was solid floor now, but I know that was the servants' entrance at that time. You can only validate that by asking.
You know, you need blueprints or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What the house used to be or whatever, that kind of validation. The places you're going, you're not going to get any validation unless it's somebody else that has done a remote view that is getting similar information, because you're going places where they're not supposed to be.
Right.
They're not supposed to be there underneath this, you know?
You can go to museums, history, if that's where you're at. But as far as validating in different dimensions, that's very difficult. I don't know how you would do it.
Well, I know that I'm sorry, go ahead. I know that I've seen military shows on TV about remote viewing and services for the military where two people are separated, given the same instructions as to what to go and look at. And then when they compare their notes, they're exactly the same. That's pretty good validation.
Yeah, that's a good validation.
So something like that would work. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can get a bunch of people together and do a remote viewing, you're more likely to have it be right.
Yeah, cool.
Because everybody will see it.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, any closing remarks? We're getting kind of.
If I were to say, what color car do I drive? Now, would that be remote viewing or would that be psychic?
Psychic.
Oh,
Unless I went over there and looked in your garage to see what color car you drove.
How about if you try it? You want to give it a try?
Well, psychically, the first answer was red, but I don't know. I didn't, because when I go look, that's not the color.
Okay, so Heather
So
says
what
red.
color is it when you go look?
Silver. Ish. But who knows? I don't trust myself enough yet.
Is it a sedan?
I'm just asking, just whatever color comes first.
Oh,
The first color that came to mind was green. And I don't even know if they make green cars anymore.
I know, right?
I had a MGB that was green.
I remember seeing lime green.
gray or white sedan?
I drive a white sedan, a white 4-door.
Cool.
That's why I said silver-ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's always dirty. It's very hard to keep a white car clean.
And that's why I
really
said
is.
the sign, actually looking at it is different than psychic. And everybody scrolls it. I know you can hear me though.
Heather, you're the luckiest woman in the whole world because you look at the beautiful smile you have on.
Yeah, that's a great
Usually when we're like
Sometimes I have
a weird face when we freeze.
sometimes I have that.
But I think that was her.
That's a good one.
I think that was her psychic power or her psychic energy trying to come through that stopped her camera.
But I'm not going out and back in. I'll just keep talking to you. We're too close.
That's okay.
Yeah.
No problem. We're getting ready to close anyway. I just wanted to say that next month will be Jean on June 3rd. Can you believe that?
No.
Talk about
Where did the year go?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Auric fields, our auras.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
cool.
That's gonna
I'll
be
look forward to that.
Very awesome.
And what are you ladies up to this week? I know tomorrow we have a show. What is our show on tomorrow? I've forgotten. Oh,
Offending and offended.
offending versus offended. Offended
Hmm.
versus offending.
Oh, that should be good.
Yeah, because
I love that subject.
it's just ridiculous how people are offended by everything today. Are you offended by things? If I don't like it, I just let it go. I don't get offended by it. It's like, what a waste of energy.
Exactly.
Being offended by everything out there. I'm offended by this. I'm offended. This seems
All
like a
right. So you're
terrible
going to
thing our
teach us
society's
how to not be offended. That's great.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
we're going to chat about that tomorrow. And then we are going to have some encore programs because my daughter graduates college on Saturday morning.
Yay, how
Get
exciting.
her master's in counseling. So I'm
Oh.
such a proud mom.
Yeah, she's
And,
going south and I'm going east.
Yeah,
And then I'm
we're
going.
going on
Different
a
direction.
family vacation. So,
Oh, so
fun.
happy for you. Have a wonderful time.
What are you two up to online? Anything, any shows coming up?
Yes, I'll be on doing my live solo reading show on Wednesday, and that's at 5 Eastern. And then on Thursday, I will be on Terry Withholding Your Space, her
Wonderful.
channel as a guest. So I'm really excited about that. We love to read together. And that's at, let's see, same thing, 5 Eastern. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
What about you, Miss Jean?
I have Mark the Spirit Whisperer coming on my show later on this evening at 6 p.m.
Fun.
and Eastern, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And it's a nice group. It's a different crowd, I think, on Monday evening. So it's a nice little
Yeah.
change. We usually get together
Fun.
on Saturdays. And so he's been coming over on Mondays. And then tomorrow I'll be with Terry Renner. She really has been quite the co-host, and she did a beautiful meditation and healing session with Debbie Freebird Spirit and Kevin the Healing Medium and JJ Tuta Speaks. They put together a beautiful healing on Zoom, and there was like 80 people there. It was really very well done.
Wow.
And
Nice.
it was quite the experience. I'm really glad that I went. So it was really, really beautiful. Very,
Wow.
very much needed.
Cool.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Wow. That sounds great and well attended.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. All right, ladies. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for being here and participating. We love it. And I guess we'll see you next month, huh? Until then, take care, shine your light, and love each other.
Take care of you.
Bye-bye.
Take care of you.